Hey, Cookster here, and welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to go over all the work I had to do on this upper cowl panel. Now that doesn't seem like a subject for much of a video, but there's a lot of fitting I had to do on this upper cowl panel on both sides, the driver's side and the passenger side. If you watch my door videos or the blocking video I just posted, I covered some of it. I had to cut and weld and reshape this cowl panel on both sides. And I've been over this a few times already in videos, so I'm not trying to repeat myself, but let me tell you why I had to do all that. So when I rebuilt the doors, if you watch those videos, I cut the door skins off, welded them back on, reshaped the doors to get them fit to match the fenders. So I spent quite a bit of time getting the doors and the fenders to match, and of course the doors to fit the cab. The door fit to the cab is really good. You know, it latches, it's shut. I just thought I'd give you a real quick look at it, the cowl, before I prime it. After I got it cleaned up, sanded, I sandblasted it again, DA'd it down. Looks a whole lot better than it did as far as just the finish of it. Which, you know, that's to be expected. There's the inside of that one. The first owner who passed away, so it's a 2-owner truck, well 3 including me. But anyway, it's basically been in my family since 1974 or 5, whenever. This was my dad's daily driver. He drove his truck from the time he bought it in 75 or 4 till he retired in 1990, 91, 92. And then drove it again till about 2005 as his daily driver, somewhere in that range, early 2000s. So this truck's got over 200,000 miles on it. It's had an engine put in it, I think, twice. Anyway, I'm getting off subject. So this truck, I've known this truck pretty much its entire life, and a lot of mine too. So the hood gap was always really tight at the rear of the fenders. I can remember, and I painted this truck twice. If you haven't watched my videos, I painted this truck twice, and then of course the paint job on it now was put on by somebody else after I was, you know, grown and out of the house and all that stuff. And both times we painted it, I can remember the rear corners back here being tight, and the cowl panel gap was always tight too. So there was always a tight fit here anyway. The doors, you know, they had their factory fit. They weren't horrible, they weren't great. So when I got everything fitting and dialed the doors in, you know, I don't want to call these gaps perfect, but for lack of a better term, you can lay a straight edge across these gaps and they're dead nut straight on both sides. So as I said, once I did all that, the cowl panel wound up being too tight on both sides, and so did the hood. And then the front of the hood was always tight too. So picture the hood being straight and a little bit kicked out on the front, which is probably the way those things were always stamped, but that's the way they were. So I'm rambling here, but to make a long story, try to make it a little shorter, I had to go back and refit. I cut the sides off both sides, moved them in. This corner up here didn't exactly fit like I wanted it to. It didn't match the other side, so I had to reshape all this. Had to reshape the edges and then narrow the width in. And I did all that by cutting and welding and reshaping with weld bead. Now some of you may not like that, and I understand, but it's the way I've done it, and it works for me. These edges are not full of filler. The edges are steel. But there is filler in the middle to fill up the weld. You know, the welds. When you weld stuff, it shrinks. And I wasn't going to try to metal finish this piece here. I don't have the equipment to do it. I'm really not set up to do it, and I don't quite have the skill to do it. I try to get stuff as good as I can, but metal finishing completely with no filler at all is not in my tool set. But this cowl panel now does fit very well. I've already primed it and blocked it twice, so this cowl panel, as far as straightening work goes, is done. In that same process, I also had to narrow up the rear of the hood. I had to cut about 6-8 inches section here and narrow this in. I had to narrow both of the fronts of the hood up front, and I had to narrow that side a lot more than I wanted to, but that's what it took to get these gaps right. So that's what this video is. I'm trying to get this video down into one video. I'm editing it now, and I still got over 2 hours worth of footage, and I'm trying to collapse into one video. My channel still doesn't have a lot of views. I don't get very many comments, so I don't know if people like the longer videos, don't like them, like the multi-part videos, or they don't. I cut footage out all the time because the videos just get too long. So I know some people, some channels, the bigger channels, they have like Patreon, pay channels where people pay to have a membership and they get to watch all the footage. Or some guys have memberships, I think, on their YouTube pages where they can go in and watch stuff. My channel is not near big enough for that, obviously, for people that might want to see all the little, everything that goes into it at real-time speed, no fast forwarding, no cutting out, all the stuff. But for most viewers, you get bored, and I see it in comments all the time, not so much mine, but other channels. So anyway, this may be one video, it may be two, I don't know. I'm just showing this because it's part of the process. I don't even know if you guys want to watch this. The hood, the fenders, the cowl panel is all done now. It fits great. The hood's up next. The hood fits now. I didn't film cutting and re-welding on the hood. I just didn't feel like doing it. I just didn't do it. I just didn't do it. So shame on me. If you wanted to see it, I apologize. So here's our gaps. Get nice straight gaps. I also had to build a little bit of the hood out right here with some weld bead in this direction because the gap was too wide. The gap came down and kind of tailed away, and I covered some of that in the video. I had to rework this entire corner up here. It didn't fit right. And then in the video, you can see me blocking across the gap. I filled it with filler, but I cut all that filler back out, obviously, when I blocked it. These edges are steel. There's no filler. There's filler in the panel, but no filler on the edge. Both of these edges are steel. There's no, I didn't build up edges with filler. I don't do that. Or I try my damnedest not to. Passenger side, same deal. We got a good gap here, good gap here. This gap, all these gaps are steel. There's filler in the panel, but there's no gap. There's no filler building the gaps up. On the driver's side, I had to weld up this entire edge to get it to fit, both with the door and this curve up here, which has this odd shape to it. Wasn't shaped right. I wanted it to match the other side. Come on. And then you can see down the hood gap. There's a good gap now on the hood and the rear the cowl panel. My handy dandy 3/16 Lexan gapping tool here. I'll show you. Hang on if I can do this. There's my 3/16 gap, and then the corner here of the hood is just a bit tight. Hard for you to see. So there's a steel rule across the gap, and it's just barely, like 20 thousandths maybe over. So I may or may not like cut the last inch or two and drive the rear end a little bit more. I don't know yet. I ain't decided. It fits 200 times better than it fit before, no doubt. So anyway, there's that gap, and of course this gap. They look really good. I do have to do the body work on the hood now, where I'll rework the edges, but that'll come later. But again, it's all steel here. There's no body filler on this edge. There'll be some body filler up in here where I have to rework the gap. The rear hood gap is not perfect. A couple of reasons why. I don't have the gasket in under here. I don't have this tightened down, so there will be some finagling of the hood gap, but I feel confident that I can get it to fit the way it's supposed to. You have to remember, this hood opens up, and when it swings, it has to clear back here as it opens up and swings over, so it can't scrub right here. So you can't get this gap here too narrow or too high or low, and it'll scrub. Right now it's doing good. You might could see there's a couple of rub marks back here where it scrubbed some in the past. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble. Oh, I was going to show you the front down inside of here too. Again, there's a little bit of skim coat of filler in this face of this flange, but the bead is all metal, all steel. And I shot video of that. If I get questions or comments yapping about me building this edges up with filler, I got video to proof to show that I didn't do that. So anyway, that's the preamble, whatever, of what we're doing. So stick around and watch the video. I hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it. Let's go. This gap here has gotten too tight. I had to massage this curve here. This curve on this side and the curve on that side were not the same. And I never bent this panel, so I guess it was always that way. But I had to go in here. Again, I made some relief cuts, if you can see them. And I even made one down here. And I had to make an adjustment right here to try to get this panel to fit the door. It fits really nice now. So what I'm about to do now, where I made these relief cuts here, this edge here has gotten a little bit wavy because I took it. It was a nice gentle curve. Now it's got little bumps in it where the bends are. But I know if I go here now and grind this or file it to a nice shape, nice curve, I'm going to grind through. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the MIG welder while I got the panel on the truck and tack it back together so these where I made my pie cuts won't move on me. So I'm gonna tack it back together. Then I'm gonna take it off the truck, and I'm actually gonna weld a bead all the way under this side under here. So add some weld bead, so I can come back and grind this and make it good and smooth, and I won't grind through. I think you understand. It'll probably make more sense when I do it. I'll show you. Alright, I'm going to film this. You're not going to be able to see a whole lot of it, but you'll get the idea. You've seen me weld enough. I'm probably going to fast forward right through this, and then we'll grind it out. I just wanted to show you what I'm doing. So here, there's where I welded up that top edge from the, well, I actually welded, come on focus. I welded from the inside, and of course got good penetration, so it came all the way, will you focus? So it came all the way through. But the inside's what I was worried about. So I put a good bead all down through here and up through here. So I'm going to grind out here on these corners. So I want a good bead in here so I won't grind through. And of course I had to weld up that pie cut. Looks kind of ratty now, but I'll get it ground down and it'll look good. And of course I'm going to break out a file. You know me by now. If you don't be by now. I'm going to file all this stuff. You can't get as smooth or straight of an edge with a grinder as you can with a file. Always try to come back and file. It takes patience to do it, but you'll get a better job. Yep. You like it, layers like stuff. run a block with some 80 grit over it just as a final sanity check after I get through filing. Well, there we are after I ground it, filed it, run a block over it. I don't know how much you can tell from here, but it's a good straight line. Light line looks good. There's a little bobble right there that I might file on some more later. Maybe a tiny bobble right there. So I might give this one more filing after I get finished with the rest of it. But it's really close. So that's way better than it was going to be if I'd left it alone. So alright, I'm done for now. I'll be back when I have some more to show you. Alright, I have spent many more hours tweaking and cutting and welding and fitting off camera. Decided to go ahead and show what I hope is the last gap I have to fix, and it's right here. I don't know how well you can see it in the camera, but the gap is pretty straight. The hood gap to the cowl panel gap is pretty straight till about right here. Then it rolls back. It's not a lot. Now that I got a better view here, let me put the straight edge up here. If you can see it, we can do it better this way. See how we're about straight up until right here, and then you see how this corner here curves away. Even if I cut this piece, I was going to cut it right along in here somewhere. I didn't want to disturb this corner because I've already had to massage it. I've already had to work this corner once, so I didn't want to have to cut it again. But even if I was to cut it here and push forward, this corner here is still going to be rounded back off. I don't believe I can make this straight here by just cutting it off. I've been sitting here looking at this for about 10 minutes, thinking and planning, and I think what I'm going to do now is go ahead and weld the bead up. It's put weld bead on the corner right here. Let's build it up. I may catch some shit from some people for doing it that way, but that's something that sometimes you just have to do. This thing is not shaped 100% right. Me cutting it out and putting it back together may have created some of that. I've already had to build this edge up here, as I mentioned a little bit anyway. And this is not the only place I've ever done this. If you watch my door videos and stuff, there's lots of places where you have to kind of, where you sculpt, well at least I do, sculpt with weld bead. So instead of cutting this off, because if I cut this off and push it back forward, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to use weld bead. So one technique you can use. By the way, my gap was still sticking out too far. This is how much it was sticking out. One trick or technique, I guess you can call it, you can use this just to use masking tape. And I put the panel on the truck, and I use masking tape to line out my gap where I want to cut. So you can see this area here. This is where I want to grind. I'm going to grind down. I'm going to grind up right next to the edge of the masking tape. You could also make a mark and do it that way. And I've done that before, but in this case, I'm just going to grind right up to my masking tape, and that should get me pretty close to being in the ballpark. And then obviously, I'm about to stand in the line of sight of my grinding disc. Now I'm using it at very low speed, so the sparks are not really shooting up towards my eyes. Just be aware that what I'm doing is kind of dangerous. If you're going to try this, be careful. You don't want to run the grinder wide open like this, and you'll shoot sparks right in your face. The obvious answer to that is put a set of goggles on, or a head or a face mask. You know, personal protection. You know, type stuff. One of those do as I say, not do as I do type things. Just be smart. Don't be stupid. Don't get yourself hurt. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'm using the grinding disc to put, right now I have a very sharp 90-degree corner. I need to round the corner over, obviously, and I am using a grinding disc again, very slowly, very carefully, just nipping it, grazing it. No, what's the word? No, not glossing. Anyway, very lightly, just going over it with the grinder running slow to do that round over. And another good trick I've found for areas that are convex, yeah, like this curve here. It's got a curve that comes down, but it's also rounded over. A good tool for that, where'd it go? Is this air sander right here. You can put it right in this corner, this right here, and just bevel it at an angle and get your bevel started. And if you've watched my channel enough, you know I like to file all my edges. So I'll take a file as a final dressing and dress it down. But first, before I go to all that trouble, I want to check my fitment again on the truck. I think it still might be a little bit wide, just looking at it from here. But wide's good. That means I can cut it down a little more. I don't want to overcut it, have to re-weld it again, which I could if I had to, but I don't want to. So let me go check the fit again, and I'll be back. Alright, that looks good. We're straight here now, but I got this little low edge, this low area right here where the round over is at. I could probably, oh there I am, I could probably finish sanding this out a little bit better. It's got to match this radius right here. That's what I was talking about, rounding over. You don't want to go from that sharp edge to you don't want to leave that sharp edge. Like this is a sharp 90-degree corner. You got to round it over so it looks like this, like it's factory. So I believe I can get this from what I got. So I'm going to take my little air sander, like I was talking about here, and put it in like at a 45, and just gradually work that down. And this is, again, very slowly, very carefully. Don't get in here and caveman this, you'll overdo it. Have to start all over again. And this is also 60 grit, by the way. So basically what I'm doing is putting a chamfer on there. Chamfer, however you want to say it. That when I get my file onto it, will turn it into a round over. So that looks pretty good there, actually. The ultimate, the ultimate straightness of this is going to come from a file, which is what I'm about to do now. Let me back out now. So I just got to file the edges until I get them where I want them. I also like to take a piece of 80 grit on a block and then run over with that, and that kind of gives you a good idea of how it's going to stand out, how it's going to block out. Although the file does a really good job of getting stuff straight, it removes metal. The 80 grit doesn't really remove any metal, at least not by hand. But it gives you, you get a chance to put sandpaper on it and kind of smooth it out and see how it's going to look. So I do like doing that. It helps. Alright, so let me show you what we come up with here. And I'm hoping this is going to fit. It fit when I went and tested it. Now there is a little bobble right here. I was talking about the light lines. There is a little bobble here, and it's extremely minor. Extremely minor. But I'm nitpicking. This is what I do. I can't help it. It's so minor that primer. When I spray this with primer, it'll block out. It's that minor. I'm just trying to see if I can tweak it a little bit by filing. Which I know filing's taking away, not adding back. But, you know, sometimes you can do a bit of both and they'll even out. Sometimes. That looks better. It's still a little bit of a bobble. I could put the air sander back on it, but I'm afraid to. Because it's that close. If I undercut it, then I've ruined it. And I gotta add weld bead back, and I don't want to do that. I'm just working this edge a little bit more. Again, the spot I'm trying to file out is it's tiny, it's minuscule. When I block it with the primer, it's going to block right out. But that looks better, which makes my OCD body man brain feel better about it. Alright, let me show you what we got. Alright, here we are zoomed in. The little low spot I was talking about, little wave, is right there. See the dark spot beside the high spot? I got 99% of that out. This last little low wave right here will block out with primer. I promise you. But I'm just showing you what you can see in the light if you use the light to your advantage. The straight edge. We are now good and straight. There's a shadow line, but we are straight. My corner is still straight. It tails off a tiny bit here, but it did that before. It's not enough to worry about. Not in this case. So that's here's where I built it. I welded it out, or here's where I built it up right along in here. And you can see the edge of it. That's not even that might be a 32nd of an inch thick right there. So one tiny little wipe of, I'll put a little bit of fiberglass, chopped fiberglass filler on that. It'll hide it. It'll cover it right up. You'll never know it was there. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. So now I just got to put it back on the truck one last time and hope it fits. So fingers crossed. Let's go see what we got. Alright, as I just said a few minutes ago in the video, not in real time. In real time it's been a few days. I still was not happy with how this cowl edge right here was fitting. I'd look at it and I'd try to convince myself it was okay, and it was okay, but it wasn't great. And finally I just gave up. I didn't give up. So finally I said, you know, F it, it's just not right. So I'm going to go back and rework it again. So I spent another few hours resculpting. I built this up with weld bead again, cut it again, pie cut it again here and reshaped it again and weld beaded it in shape. And now it actually looks right. It's got the nice curve, this sunken area right here, the gentle shape of the seat on the passenger side. It fits nice. It fits really good, and I didn't touch it. This whole area right here, this is factory. I have not done anything to this, and see how it fits the nice curve. It's got the nice round over. It fits well. Now this is loose, so ignore the cap, the body line. But this piece just fits so nice. Whereas compared to this side, and I'm not sure how much I showed it originally, this end was tucked way in. It was bent kind of funny. This end out here really wasn't shaped that well. And I messed with it and messed with it and messed with it some more and messed with it some more and still wasn't happy with it. I finally have it where I like it now. You do see a low spot here, which was this was here before. A small amount of filler wiped in here will fix this right up. The same on the inside. I'm probably going to catch some shit from guys about taking weld bead and building up edges, but the alternative is to shape it with filler, and I don't do that. And of course, metal finishing the entire panel was way out the window. Metal finishing as meaning, you know, not have to do any sculpting and reshaping. That was never going to happen. This panel was already too far out of whack to do that. So welding, using weld bead and sculpting, it was really my only option to get it where I wanted, and I did it. Tiny amount of filler right here will dress these little low spots up, and it'll look fine. And it's not going to crack and be made full of a 1/4 inch full of filler. If you don't like this method, you know, that's fine. I accept your criticism or whatever, but it's going to be fine. It's not going to hurt nothing. It's my truck. I just thought I'd give you a real quick look at it, the cowl, before I prime it. After I've got it cleaned up, sanded, I sandblasted it again, DA'd it down. Looks a whole lot better than it did as far as just the finish of it, which, you know, that's to be expected. There's the inside of that one. But anyway, here we are after the primer. I'm about to start doing the body work, a little bit of filler just to fill up the little imperfections. I guess I'm going to film that, but I don't know if I'm going to show it or not. Alright, I wiped a little filler over my cowl panel repairs that I made, and of course I wiped across the gaps again, which, you know, I did before on my doors. Now I can open the door, so I you know, open the door and the filler doesn't stick, but it's still there. It won't take. It just makes blocks handling across that gap a little easier. I did find that little bobble. I can see it in the primer now. Little low spot right there. You may or may not be able to see it in the camera. I think you can see it. It's a little low spot, little dimple in my sheet metal, in my metal work. So I got to come back and rub a little tiny bit of filler in there after I get through blocking. But all I'm going to do is block this down, get the sand scratches out, all that stuff. Passenger side is the same way. I had to do a small amount of work in here as well, so I wiped over the gap. I'll block this out. Got a run in it. Yeehaw. So anyway, I will block this out. I'm only going to show blocking one side. The side I kind of showed repairing, which was this side. I don't know if anybody's interested in seeing me block sand some more, but anyway, I will. I'm going to film it. There's a little bit of lumpiness, for lack of a better word, right in here. It's not bad. It's not horrible. It is there, and I will block it out. It may take a little bit of doing. I might even have to rub a little skim coat on it. We'll see. But for now, I'm just going to block it and go from there. I'll put some guide coat on this, even though I don't really need it, but it'll help you see what I'm doing better. I think I'll start with my round block. You got to be careful with these round blocks. I mentioned in one of my door videos, you can sand a ditch, a trough, real quick with one of these if you're not careful. They work really well in curved places. Just be careful with them. You know, when you're block sanding primer, do your best not to cut all the way through down to the metal, and once you do, stop. There are times when that doesn't work. You wind up finding a high spot in the metal that you sometimes have to hammer down, or there's things you have to do, but you try. When you know, the best goal when you're block sanding, you know, is once you hit metal, hopefully you can stop. But sometimes that doesn't work out that way either. Now, I do want to watch this crease right here. It was a little wavy from the factory, so I want to try to block it straight if I can. May even have to add a little filler up there right into this big low spot right here. But I can't get it where I like it. Yeah, I talked about it lots of times. These factory panels weren't perfect, especially back in the day. I'm not trying to make this thing perfect. Again, I hate using that word, but I'm trying to get it as close to straight as I can. And sometimes reworking the factory panels is, you have to do it. Well, you don't have to do it, but you know what I mean. This low spot here is trying to come out. The trick is not to oversand these outer areas trying to get this to come down, because you can do that if you're not careful. Still got a little dimple right here, low. You could get a ruler, a straight edge out, a piece of tape, whatever, but I can sight down it, and this is a short run, it's only a foot or so long. I can sight down it right here and still see. It's got a small dip in it, but it's not very big at all. Work the top side, and that may help a little bit. You got to be careful up here though. This will get out of whack real fast. I've already worked these doors so much. I don't want to undo all the box prick I did on my doors. If I can help it. Just going slow, reading the primer, the guide coat helps. You know, use your hand. It's one of your best shaping tools right here to feel shape with. But this up in here feels really good. I could put this curve block right in here maybe. I wanted to. It's certainly not the wrong tool for it. Again, you got to be careful with these things. You don't want to cut a big valley or a ditch in here. And I'm just standing until the guide coat's gone, and then feel it with my hands. Of course, reading the primer too. But I'm going to do something that people are going to tell you can't do. And then 90% of the situations they're right. Hand sanding, let me back out a little bit. Blocking or sanding by hand with your fingers. Now that would be, if I was blocking this panel straight, that's a no-no. That is not doing you any good. That is not block sanding. That's hand sanding. Two different things. But this area right here is all shape. It's all curved and dimples and whoop-de-doos, and there's a low channel valley right here made on purpose. It's the way it's supposed to be. You can't sand that with a block. Now there, like I said, there's custom special blocks you can get and make and do all kind of weird stuff. And that, if you want to go to all that trouble and expense, I'm not going to stop you. Fine. But you can do it with hand sandpaper. And I'll show you one of my tricks that I haven't shown in a while. Take sandpaper. Let me get a piece that's not gluable. So here's my sandpaper that I folded up. You know, we talked about before how you fold it into thirds. You take this paper and kind of wrap it around itself, and you've made a little sanding block. This is not as rigid as a sanding block, but it's not wumpy either. You can't, you can bend it, but this gives you a little sanding block. This face right here. You can get in there and sand with this, and then of course you can use your fingers. Now let me zoom back in. A little more. And drop it in the floor. You can use your fingers. Just don't bear in so hard that you're making imprints with your fingers. Come on. Don't bear in hard and make imprints with your fingers. That ain't what you want to do. You're just using your fingers to make the paper glide across the surface. And it's not block sanding, but you're not cutting ditches with your fingers either if you're doing it right. And in these curved places, you really have no choice but to do that. And again, it might take a little practice to do it. Read your primer. If you're using guide coat, read your guide coat, read your primer. Take your time, go slow, and you can do it. You can do it. This paper's old, by the way. Get a better piece. So I'm going to do the easier area first, which is up here or towards the top. This piece goes up, curves back down. There's a little dip right here. It's on purpose. All that's got to be sanded and sand with the panel. I don't want to take all that factory shape out. That is not my goal. Now I know you really can't see. I'm watching the guide coat to see when it goes away. And when I start hitting bare metal, I gotta, slack off, back off, lighten up. And see, already that feels really good. Now I can see there's some low spots, not low spots, there's a sand scratch and a wave or two here. As I said, I didn't prime this real heavy. This is really just overspray. So I will be able to fix all that when I actually prime the whole panel and block it. Alright, now we're going to work back into this corner, which this is where all the real shape is and the where it was kind of warped or bent or wrinkled. Damn it. I guess wrinkled is the better word. And I worked just really hard too. I had to cut this and weld it and beat it and grind it and cut it and weld it and grind it and beat it. But I got it really close to fitting like I wanted it to, finally. That feels really good. So I do see a little, I got to work this little low right here, and to do that, I'm going to roll up my sandpaper to start with and kind of sand this away, because if you don't know about it, this little corner right here, it's like a little channel in there. It's a little low spot. not a low spot, a curve. And I'm trying to keep that curve as factory as I can. So this is an area that's just really difficult to sand. There's no way around it. And I can't really show you how to do it. It's just one of those things you're going to have to figure out a way to do it for yourself one day, if you ever have to do it. I'm just taking my sandpaper, as I said, I'm rolling it up and kind of making a little mini block out of it, you know. And it fits down inside that little contour. You know, keep trying to, you know, if the sandpaper loads up, you know, if you need to keep I'm going to cut this down. Keep finding a fresh edge in your paper. That helps too sometimes. Now I'm making kind of a little half circle. I rolled it, bent it and kind of rolled it into a little half circle. So again, little mini sanding block with that shape in it. Whoop, not down there. I think I got that. That feels really good. It looks good too. I'm going to go with that. So let's lightly dress over it now with the whole area. That feels good. Now this top edge right here I really can't get to. It does need to be blocked a little bit. But with it being here on the truck, it's really hard to get to. So I will clean this upper edge up. I'm just hitting the primer now, so you know it doesn't build up so much. Just this heavyweight, or not heavyweight, this hot build primer will build up on you really fast. And I don't like to spray this stuff just any thicker than I have to. I want to hit this front corner right quick. Always block your edges. Make them look good and straight. Especially like places like where I've worked this edge heavily. This is weld bead, a lot of it. So you got to block all that. Okay. Just dress it up by hand. I'm not sanding hard, I'm not sanding deep. I'm just evening out all these sand scratches in little areas. It's just something I do, don't freak out. Alright, here we are after I block sanded. I did go back and rework this corner. This entire edge has been cut and welded and reshaped, so there is filler in here. The green is fiberglass. I use that because I just like to use it sometimes on like stuff that's been heavily welded. And then a little bit of body filler. So after I got this blocked, I didn't really like the way this was shaped, and I'll show you why. Here's the passenger side. Passenger side is unmolested. Now there is a dent right here. This is that low ripple I was telling you about. This is a little dent. So I will wind up putting a dab of filler in here to fix that little low spot, little dent. But the curve comes in and it's got like kind of like a horseshoe shape. Show you. Kind of like this. It's hard to see, but it's there. So it's kind of horseshoe shaped, and then it's got this little low spot. Of course, that's a dent, like I said. And then it rounds off. Well, I didn't have this low, I didn't have where it comes in here low enough, and then I got the little horseshoe shape. So I had to come back and sand down in this fiberglass and then get that shape in there. This is not deep, but it is in there, and I had to use filler. So those of you that are thinking I didn't use filler, I did, I had to. And for those of you turning your nose down at filler, hey, I'm an old body man. I don't mind using body filler if you use it right. This stuff is not deep, but it's in there to make these panels straight. And again, I had to cut this panel too and re-weld it. So all this whole corner up in here has been re-welded or been reshaped and tweaked. So it takes some body filler to straighten it out. I'm not metal finishing this stuff. I never tried to. Anyhow, so I went back and I resanded this and reshaped this, and now I'm much happier with it. So we're going to get it primed again. So you can't see it, but I can. There's still some waviness in here after I resanded it again. But that's why you prime and block. That's what that's for. So I'm gonna keep priming, let it dry, and then I gotta sand it some more. So that's why we do this. There's a little wave or two, ripple or two right here. I'm not even sure if you can see it. I'm trying to pick it up, but it's probably not going to in this camera. It is right there. But when I block it again, that'll block out. See, I'm seeing a little low spot, a little shadow, which again you may not be able to see. Rest of it looks good. So I'll finish priming, let it dry. We'll come back and sand on it. You got to be real careful of these flat blocks on the curved corners, because you'll dig a flat spot, kind of like a faceted surface. You don't want that. So don't dig in hard. Don't dig in deep. I am going to use my fingers because my fingers fit that area better than anything else. That's actually getting really close. I should make a profile gauge, but I just don't want to do it. That's probably, you can say I'm being lazy if you want. The only way to get it perfectly perfect is to make a profile gauge. But it is really close now. It was close before, and it's even closer now. Let's see, I'm down to bare metal, so that's as far as I can go anyway. Alright, let's go ahead and block the rest of this. Again, 320. Let me get some guide coat just to make myself. Give it a go with the hand paper. Now I'm just working out the sand scratches. I just like doing this. If you don't want to do this, don't. But I like doing it. It's just the way I do it. It works for me. Some of y'all are probably wondering why I'm not using a long block. If you watch my earlier videos on my fenders and my doors, I did long block these before. So they've been straightened with a long block. These spots in my doors are just where I cut through the primer. I either cut through it or put some heavy sand scratches in it when I was reworking this cowl that had to be reblocked. So that's why I'm using that short block. It's just to work that out. I will come back and long block it one more time. Alright, I'm happy with it. Alright, so here we are. This is the little area I was working into. See, my thumb fits. If you draw a silhouette around the outside of my thumb, that's what that profile right there feels like. Everything else looks really good. It's straight. The crease is straight. But your crease was straight to start with. You're just blocking it straight. So this is done. I am going to have to sand the other side. I'll do that off camera. The last thing I will do, I'm going to go ahead and pull it off. You notice I wiped over the gaps. I did that on purpose. I will come back and I'm going to pop the panel off the truck, get the gaps cleaned up, sand them and block them, and then I'll final prime it in this state, and that'll be done until I prime and block the whole panel, whenever that is down the road. Alright, so that's the end of the video. I know that was a lot of detailed, tedious work on a panel that a lot of people might overlook. But if you want to get your gaps to really look good and look consistently good all the way through, like I mentioned before, the rabbit hole, you get one gap or two gaps fixed and really good, all the bad ones start to step out, jump out and show up, and you pretty much had to wind up fixing all of them. And that's the condition I had on this cab. Once I got the door gaps and fender gaps looking good, I had to fix all the rest of them to make them look good. And now they all look good. It just took a lot of hours and a lot of work to do it. So as I've been saying, I'm still trying to grow my channel. I know I took all summer off. I got a lot of work to do to the truck that's upcoming this fall. I've already got plans in my mind of what to do and how I want to do it. Still want to work on the Model A. Got a lot of stuff I want to get done around here this winter, this fall first. So I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll check the videos out. Trying to grow the channel, so every view, every comment, every subscription I get helps grow the channel. I can't grow the channel without your guys and gals' help, so I'd appreciate it. I hate to sit here and beg for views or beg for subscriptions, but to grow the channel I pretty much have to have them. But anyway, enough of that. So I'm Cookster's Garage. Hope you enjoyed the video, and be sure to do all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, notification bell. Share it with your buddies, your enemies, grandma, grandpa, whoever. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Y'all come back now, you hear? Bye.